Hi, welcome. This is Krista Dunk, and you are at the Author Acceleration Academy YouTube channel. And this is our next episode here in the Broken Chapters Author Interview Series. Thanks for watching. And today I have one of our fabulous authors, Rhonda Castanon, with me, and she is the author of the Broken Chapters, Chapter 8. So welcome, Rhonda.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad you are here. I've really been enjoying just chatting with all the different authors. And so I think we're about halfway through. We have probably 8 or 10 more authors to interview, but this has been really fun. So I'm happy that you're here today. And you are chapter 8. Here is our Broken Chapters book, chapter 8 author. And it is entitled, "But Lord, That's Absurd." I like that chapter title, and makes me laugh. There are a couple of chapter titles in there that give me a giggle, and that's one of them. So if you don't mind, I would love to just read a little bit of your bio.
All right.
So that people can know a little bit more about you. Okay. Rhonda Castanon is an author and entrepreneur and lives in Claremont, Florida with her husband. She is a mom of 2 young adult children, just like myself. And you're someone, Rhonda, who has done some advocacy for domestic violence things and also children. You've done a lot of work. Your prior career, you were a lawyer. And so you've done a lot of things in courtrooms and things like that. You are an author. You have a book called Journey Derailed. Is your hope for healing tied to a diagnosis, an expected outcome, a cure, or to Christ? I love that. You're working on another book right now that we will also talk about just in a few minutes. And you are someone who God has taken you on an unexpected journey through some chronic health issues in your life. And so that is actually kind of what your chapter is about in Broken Chapters, correct?
Yeah, I mean, in essence, I think my story is a great illustration that many times Christ might answer, doesn't always answer the prayers in the way that we want, but he doesn't give us what we want, but he gives us what we need. So for me, that was certainly true because, as you said, I all of a sudden had this chronic pain from the top of my head to the tips of my toes, and just bone crushing fatigue that just crashed into my life, totally blew up my pre-planned life and all that was in it. And so what I was looking for, what I wanted is I wanted all of that to go away. I wanted the pain to go away. I wanted the fatigue to go away. I wanted my life to go back to what it had been. I wanted to get back to the way that I was, and Christ instead was giving me a way to get through.
Wow.
And he used homeschooling, which that's why the title, because that's literally my reaction to him. I was like, you're crazy. You're crazy. They're like, you heard what I said. I felt like probably like every person in the Bible, right? Like Moses, Gideon, all of them. That's like, yeah, but you did realize who you chose for that, right, Lord? Because I can't do that. You know what my brain's like, That's crazy that you would expect that this would be something beneficial for me. So, but it really was.
That's an amazing story because you don't expect that you're going through a chronic pain situation and health kind of crisis things. And your expectation is that there's going to be a medical solution. You're going to find the right doctor. You're going to find the right medication. You're going to find some sort of treatment. You're going to like that. The box in our mind looks like this.
Absolutely.
And then for God to say, yeah, homeschooling is going to help you. You're thinking, what?
Oh yeah. Because it's like anything. like I said, your focus ends up becoming everything that got disrupted. And we don't look at the fact that, many times our disruptions in life are our redirections and the ways that the Lord gets our attention. And so that is what, my chapter, kind of outlines how I reached that epiphany. And it really was, it almost feel like getting hit by a 2x4 from the Lord. He made it so crystal clear because my circumstances were such, there's no way. If it hadn't been as dramatic as it was to bring it to my attention, I would have easily ignored it. I was like, I already felt like he was insane when he said it. And so, you learn and get to hear, not just how it blessed my kids or our family as a whole, but like specific strategic ways that he used homeschooling to help me individually. I use one example in the book, in the chapter about like, my brain had been turned to mush. I mean, I literally could forget an entire phone call that I even just had a phone call as soon as I hung up a phone. Because of, I guess between the pain and the medications and everything else that you're dealing with and just the upheaval. And yet, he just has these ways of bringing you to your knees, I suppose. And, but so I was having all these memory issues. And one of the ways that we did math, because of what we did, it was very tactile. We did a lot of hands-on manipulation. There was a lot of visual. There was a lot of verbal along with visual. And all of that ended up helping me like there was other things, but that was just one way that through homeschooling, it was helping rebuild my brain and get my brain to be able to hold on to short-term stuff.
Wow.
And things like that. So there's always a method to what seems like the madness from our perspective, right?
Right. So the math that you were working with your kids was actually helping to like heal your brain at the same time.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. Even the way that we read, the way that we approached reading in books and like short lessons, all of it. It truly, and it's things that like I made no connection to myself until really I wrote my memoirs, and you start to piece all of these things together. And I was like, wait a minute, that really helped me. Like that was great for the kids, but that really helped me too. And I found instance after instance. So in the chapter, I really get to highlight all of the very specific things connected to homeschooling that helped me directly, in addition to the ways that it kind of just blessed our family as a whole and helped us heal and kept us together at a time when we should have been getting ripped apart because it was massive upheaval in our life.
Yeah. And you mentioned something just a minute ago. You said a redirection. And that word hit me when you said that. And I wonder if at the time where you were at in your life and your career, you didn't really feel like you needed or wanted a redirection necessarily.
No.
But looking back, do you see, like, is that a blessing to you? Is that something you can look back on and go, that was exactly how it needed to be? And that, like, how do you feel about that now, that redirection?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I truly feel almost like I used to remember when I'd read the Bible and you'd see these things about Paul and how he'd say that, almost like, he doesn't count anything as a loss. And so when I'm going through all of this, and of course I'm having my legal career ripped away, and just your whole sense of normalcy is being it's like you can never conceive that you could actually say those words. Like, how could someone really mean those words? Like that you could have everything taken from you and you'd still be happy, or that you see you gained so much more, but you actually do, and I do. And I know that was part of the reason, that was part of why he had me write my first book, was so that I could see those things. I could make those connections. I could see how nothing was actually lost. It was simply redirected and repurposed in the way that he wanted it to be utilized. So all that stuff, like the way that I think, the way I process information, the experiences that I've had, the speaking opportunities that it gave me, just everything, even just the homeschooling, all of it, the way that it forced me really into a position to where I thought that I had a strong relationship with God, but going through something like that, of 20 years of just no answers, no explanation, nothing.
Mm.
And you can see how God can meet you even in those most impossible moments. So I've absolutely seen the way that God redirected my life, that it needed to be done that way. And one of the biggest lessons was just seeing that I had my identity in what I did
Oh,
for a living instead of who I was in Him. And I would have never thought that that's what I was doing. But when it got all taken from me, I shouldn't have felt so like, yes, you would have been still destroyed because of the upheaval, the disruption, the unexpectedness of it. I was only in my early 30s. I was like 33, 34 years old when all of this started. Always been healthy, never any major health issues. So again, going back to those expectations though, right? Your
right.
expectation is I'm young, I'm going to keep right on going. Any kind of potential health issues you see is like way down there somewhere.
Yep, that's true.
So,
Yeah, expectations. I had a pastor once of a church we used to go to, and he was like, sometimes we have expectations of other people, especially other people that they haven't agreed to. I'm like,
right.
oh. And I do think that expectations are something, even if I look in my own life, certain expectations can bring about a lot of disappointment if they're not
Yeah.
met. And
Yes.
so, yeah, I know you have this topic on your heart today of expectations. So
Yeah.
what do you want to talk about when it comes to that?
Well, just like you were saying, I feel I look at the stories that the Lord, between my memoirs that He had me write, this chapter, of course, highlights many of those kind of like expectations that I had. But even the book that my husband and I are writing, it's the same way. I just feel like the Lord just keeps showing me that, the expectations that you have of what your life plan is supposed to look like. Oh, all those statements we make, all those shoulda, woulda, coulda statements we make to ourselves about, well, I should be further along in this, and what I shouldn't still be struggling with, blah blah blah. And those are it's I would just highly encourage people that I just don't think we realize how many kind of preset expectations we build in that drive our decision making and that aren't actually rooted in the Word of God. I mean, I you know and just like expectations for marriage, expectations for spouses, expectations for your kids. And I feel like many times that there is a large degree of emotional anguish and depression and these high emotions that we feel, that I feel like the Lord's helped me see that um, when you can if you can be introspective enough, if you let Him work in your heart, if you allow yourself to be in His Word and to let Him kind of be uprooting these things in your life, to say, well, you're disappointed in yourself, but did you ever realize that that's just because that was an expectation you had for yourself? I did it with writing the book. I shouldn't be taking this long. My health is making this so much more difficult. Why is it, if I was healthy, then I would, wouldn't have all this garbage that's like, that was all pressure I put on myself. He wasn't placing that expectation on me. He didn't tell me that I had to get it written in 6 months. He had a journey He was taking me on, even in writing the books.
That's right.
So you have to allow Him to work you through those things and to just be mindful of those. Like, how much disappointment do you have in your marriage or in your spouse that's rooted totally in an expectation you made up?
Yeah, that they didn't
The,
agree to.
yeah, you've never talked about, you've never had the discussion. They're not even probably not even aware of, and sometimes we're not even aware
True.
that we've placed that expectation on our spouse. We just know we're disappointed or, feel like they're less than. And again, it's just all those expectations we put. Well, my marriage doesn't seem to look like their marriage, or
Right. The comparison too then sneaks in there
comparison.
too.
And that's
Uh,
all based on expectations. It's these images that we create for ourselves. And that was part of what I had to let go of with my health. I had all these images. I had an image of myself as as an attorney, and you're intelligent and you can be thoughtful, and you're caring. All of a sudden it's like you can't. all that's compromised. Now you feel like you can barely put two sentences together. So it's like your ego takes a massive, and none of which I thought would have mattered.
Mm.
But that's where all my energy had gone. That's where all my thought went. And even though I loved the Lord and I read the Bible and I was involved in groups, those were all still things I did. And it wasn't, going deeper in the relationship that I could. And then he ended up taking me there anyway. He gets his
Mm.
person one way or the other. That's how my daughter put it the other way. She goes, I've just come to learn, Lord gets you there one way or the other, whether you want to be there or not. Like whatever he's trying to get you to, he gets you there.
You get there eventually. Yeah.
I know, despite yourself half the time, right?
Yeah, that's true. And I feel like too that in your situation, it was like you were grieving and you had loss. Like,
Oh yeah.
the loss of your career and what you thought that was going to be, the loss of your physical kind of abilities and capabilities. And like, yeah, you were in a time of just deep grieving. And I guess to shift expectations at that time and for God to kind of take you on that journey and show you that expectations can be different. Boy, that would really be a perspective shift that could really help you.
Yeah, I mean it was everything really. Because I realized that, it's like those tape recorders you get in your own head. And when you're constantly beating yourself up for falling short of this image that you really have, it's just an image you have in your head, that then that's where the pressure comes from.
Mm.
That's where your sense of like being behind or falling short, or that's where all that comes from. You have a pre-built expectation in your head, and then that ends up not just limiting us. Because think about it. I mean, it's like I felt like the Lord helped me see them kind of like shackles. Like these
Mm.
expectations keep you right here. So if your expectation is, oh, I can't, like I did with the Lord about homeschooling, oh, I can't possibly do that. I would have kept myself right here. And the Lord didn't seem to really be interested in what I thought I couldn't do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
kind of doesn't matter, Rhonda, hearing what you're saying, but
Right.
so
But you can do it. I know you can. Yeah.
yes,
Pre-built
because then that means we're
expectations.
putting it on him. Then that's that same limitation we end up in essence putting on him, because I
Mm.
can only see this far, Lord. So there can't possibly be anything above that. And what is he
Mm.
constantly telling us? Hey, my ways aren't your ways. My thoughts aren't your thoughts. I'm much, I'm way up here, honey. I got a whole different
Yeah.
viewpoint of what you've got going on in your life, and you can't see the end from where you're at right now, but I can, and I know where I need to get you, and this is part of what's getting you there. And you eventually begin to see it. And writing the books was a big part of, connecting all of those dots.
Yes. Yes. I was just talking with one of our other authors the other day, and that was a theme in her life too, was when I actually put my fingers on the keyboard and I had to write my memoirs and I had to write about my
Yes.
experiences. It was an eye-opening, like it continued to do a healing work. As
Oh,
authors, we take a journey.
yes. And
Right.
none of which because it's not like I'd ever written before. You may have gotten told that maybe somewhere along the line. I'm not saying I was, but someone else may have even been told that. But it's like you just described, until you're actually going through it yourself. And that's why, now I get to share that with other people who are struggling in the exact same way, going, well, I just feel like every time I start to get started, then it's like the tears come and the
Yeah.
memories come, and all
Yeah.
that wants to shut you down, all of that wants to
Mm.
take. And I remember so many wrestling sessions they did with the Lord. I had tears streaming down my face as I'm
Mm.
writing my book, and I'm like,
Mm.
I lived this already. It's like it shouldn't be this way. And it's like, but it was like its own whole process. And there
Yeah.
was just so much more healing that came as you stepped literally out in obedience, having no clue what you were doing, and just said, okay, if you're pressing it on me that I have to write this out, then I guess I'm writing it out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's going to be, you're taking your readers on a journey, but you're going on a journey first with the writing of it. It's very, very true. And something that you said, Rhonda, too, I feel like you said that this was my summary. That's what I got of it. We can limit God and what we will allow him to do and what we will partner with him to do because of these expectations or this image of it has to look this way, or limiting beliefs about what we're capable of,
yes.
what he, maybe even what he's capable of, which is sad, but sometimes true. If we want to just really be honest about it, at some of our deep points inside, sometimes we kind of doubt, we have doubts about, is God gonna do it? Does he care? Does he have a plan? Just all of the things. But yeah, and in what ways, I guess we could ask ourselves, in what ways am I limiting God from doing what he wants to do because of my own limiting beliefs about myself, or because of my
Yeah.
expectations that maybe look a little different than he wants it to, or things like that. Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh, no, I know it is. I know that that was one of the things he helped me see, is that the limitations that we place on ourselves based on those expectations also just automatically get placed on him, because we're
Mm,
already restricting what seems possible. We don't think in terms of the impossible. You can speak the words. We know that the Lord can do the impossible, but you don't really know what that means. And when you're in the middle of a crisis,
yeah.
you don't know how to put your brain there because you're so overwhelmed by your everyday, daily experience. But that is what faith is about, placing it in him to say, I can't see all this.
Mm,
I don't know how none of this makes any, I don't see a way out of any of this. But you have me here, so I guess you're getting me through, and that's just all
yeah.
there is to it. There is another side. You will come out the other side, no matter how
Mm.
long you feel stuck wherever you are.
Amen. He has a plan. He's going to rewrite that life story. He's going to work on it.
Oh,
And
yes, you better believe it.
yeah, and just, I guess part of it can be a process of really learning to trust and rely on him too, in all of these things
Yep.
that we experience. And that can sometimes take a while, and that can take a lot of
Um,
guts to be like,
yeah, because
yeah, I can't figure it out.
it's when you butt up against what you can't deal with, because this is one of the major things about expectations. We have very much a false sense of our own ability to take care of things.
Yeah.
And it's not, he does make us capable, he does make us intelligent, we do have reason and logic and all of that kind of stuff, but we're not to do it separate of him.
Mm,
And he uses these testing things that are beyond what we can do, if we're at least in part for that, for us to be able to see this is where he gets to show off and show who he really is because now it is far beyond what you can deal with, it is far beyond what you can imagine, and then that's where he has to take over, and it forces you into a position where you'll either choose to become more dependent on him, or you turn around and walk away because you don't know what else to do. And
mm,
that's why I said about expectations, that it's like I would hope maybe that it would encourage people to give some of that some consideration. How much of what you think is bad happening, negative happening in your life, is purely based on you. You created it, you made it up, you put that standard up in front of you.
mm.
You're saying that you've fallen short of God. Well, God already knows that. That's why he had to die.
Well, I suppose it's possible that we really aren't behind and really aren't falling short from where his plan and his
Yes.
paths and his
We act like
expectations.
we're going to surprise them when we screw up.
He's probably not surprised.
I don't think he's surprised. You
That's
ever
really
see
good.
that? You ever see that post that says, um, So something about like, you know, the fear we have basically of making mistakes, and it says about, you know, God's already factored in your stupidity.
Yes. I'm like, oh, thank you, Lord.
I know, right?
I
It's
need
just,
that. Yeah.
he made us, he knows. It's not like he doesn't know.
That is very, very true. He knows us very well, very well. This is so good. This is so good. I enjoy talking about this. I feel like this is something that speaks to me in my own life as well. I'm sure everybody who watches this is going to be like, oh, okay, expectations. Yeah, what do I have that's maybe a little off? Maybe it doesn't have to look that way. Maybe it's not supposed to look that way. And do I have expectations even of myself, of the people around me, of God, that
Yeah.
really are not quite accurate? Not quite
Yeah.
honest. It's very possible. Well, okay, I want to ask you now what you're up to. You mentioned writing a book with your
Oh,
husband. And so
yeah.
just give us a preview of that, if you would.
Well, the title is Sex is God's Idea. The subtitle is Overcoming the Lies You Believe About Sexual Intimacy, and it's wrapped around our personal story. So my husband has like his piece, and I have my piece, but it's dealing with a lot of the expectations about marriage, and expectations I have before marriage, you know, expectations of like what marriage would be like, and then, you know, dealing with issues of marriage and the expectations you had for, you know, that marriage is, you know, I don't know, I just think many of us, but my husband and I get on this thing of, because we had so many friends, and we'd have conversations like that where it just seemed like people are expressing just what you were saying of, you know, you had all these expectations of what the marriage would be like, and you know, now you don't feel like you're very close, maybe you're not being intimate, and but that can also just, you know, when sexual intimacy goes out the window, other forms of intimacy have disappeared usually from the relationship as well, or are struggling.
Yeah.
And you know, we just both really felt like the Lord was, for the same reason, going, you know, how much repair, you know, like how, you know, he wants to open people's eyes up to some of the things that can be right in front of you. Yes, there can be some very deep entrenched issues within a person's personal life that they bring into the marriage that need to be dealt with from people's pasts, or even that things that are happening within the marriage itself. But there's a great deal that happens just because no one tells you like what is a Christian marriage supposed to look like?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to expect of my spouse? You know what I mean? It's like I don't know. I don't know how many. We just felt like from the experiences we had, and just how many couples were struggling, a lot of it, and it's so bizarre because the Lord kind of airdropped this. We found ourselves talking about other couples that we had in our lives over years, and as we were talking about it more recently, you know, because we had talked about feeling like the Lord was having another book on our minds. That's kind of what we were talking about. And we ended up talking about these couples again, some of these couples. And he's like, that's the next book we need to write. And I was like, I think you're right. We both felt it right away. And as soon as we started writing it, it was like the Lord airdropped a couple into our lives through my husband. It's like a conversation that he had with a young man that was working his car loan. My husband went to trade his car in and gets talking to this young man. I mean, this is what I mean. Like, you start to step out in obedience, you have no idea what the Lord can do. You have no idea what's waiting around the corner.
Divine
All we did
appointment.
was say yes to writing the book, and literally within days, this opportunity came along. We've been now counseling premarital couples. We just found out about another one that we're not even looking for the people. And this is one of the topics that we get talked on again and again and again, is how much their eyes have been open to, wow, you have all these like expectations in your head, and your arguments, when you boil them down, are like, you had this expectation it would go this way, or this would be decided, or you wouldn't do that. And
So true. Wow.
learning how to put all that aside and blend two lives together is like a bit more involved than you might
Oh man.
anticipate.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's been kind of fun.
That sounds fun. And I can see how this topic of expectations, like you mentioned at the beginning of the interview, just ties into so many areas of our lives. And so this is going to be a good project. I'm excited to see where this goes. And so
I know.
when do you expect it to be out? Do you have a
Um,
expectations?
I know, right? I'm just starting to turn my eye towards kind of about that, like about how long do I think I could get this closed out. The first draft is completed, so I'm starting to turn my mind to putting the finishing touches on the book, and then starting to have some kind of beta readers
Yeah,
basically start to give us feedback on how the chapters make sense. Do they make sense? Do they flow well?
yeah.
Do we make leaps in logic, or leaps in conclusions somewhere, that kind of a thing. So
So probably sometime this year, though, it sounds like in
yeah,
2024.
it should definitely be this year. I don't
Great.
know. Yeah, hopefully within 3 4 months, I guess. 3 4 months, 5 months.
That's fantastic. Okay. So I have a feeling there are going to be people who enjoyed listening to what you have to say, Rhonda. And if there is anybody who wants your book, Your Journey Derailed, wants to connect with you, wants to stay updated on when your other book is going to come out, what's the best way for people to connect with you further if they would like to do so?
Well, the easiest way is probably through Facebook or Instagram. It's under Journey Derailed, the name Journey Derailed. Um, and I do have a website, which is journeyderailed.com, which I'll be getting ready to update soon, because I got to get some of these links and stuff on there. So
Yep.
I've got hopefully someone that'll be helping me with that end of things shortly. But I have journeyderailed.com, and you can also email me or leave a message for me there as well. But the easiest way is probably through Facebook or
Facebook
Instagram.
and Instagram. Okay, great. So people should check for your book, like on Amazon, Journey Derailed.
Yeah. Yeah.
They should find you on Instagram or Facebook at Journey Derailed. Or they could go to your website at journeyderailed.com. Okay,
Yes.
fantastic. Well, let's wrap this interview up today. Oh, this has been really, really, really good. And I just pray that people listening to this and watching this will get a perspective shift and start to talk to God about expectations
Yeah.
and different things. So yeah. So thank you so much, Rhonda, for coming on today.
No, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this. This project was really very unique, and I really feel privileged, honestly, to have gotten a chance to be a part of it and getting to know some of the other authors and their stories. It really has been. It really has been great. It really has been great. God does so many amazing things. So please check out the book and see all the different ways that God gets through to you and amazes you.
That is so true. So many different stories, different
Oh,
aspects of life, and yeah, so many wonderful things that God has done in the lives of these 21 people. So, including you and I.
yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, thanks again, Rhonda, for being here. It's been great chatting with you. And thank you, everyone, for watching. This has been a Broken Chapters author interview series segment today, and we're thankful that you're watching. You can find out more about Broken Chapters on Amazon, Kindle or paperback. And this would make a great gift for someone too who might be just going through a difficult season, maybe in some struggles, or just praying that people will read this book and say, oh, look what God did for them. He can do that for me too. So thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for our next author interview segment coming soon. Blessings to you, and bye for now.